Hello and welcome back to my channel. Subscribe, like and share your comments on this video. So I have this interesting video I want us to look at. This is something that happened not so long ago, but it seems it has backfired. What am I talking about? The affirmative action struck down, guys. In a historic decision, the Supreme Court severely limited, if not effectively ended the use of affirmative action in college admissions. The justices ruled that the admissions programs used by the University of North Carolina and Harvard College violate the Constitution's Equal Protection Clause. Now, this was after John Wayne, an Asian American, sued Harvard University after being rejected from 6 elite universities. He pretty much blamed affirmative action because some stat that he put up was saying there was more African Americans benefiting from this. Like, there was so much discrimination against high-performing Asian American students in order to give opportunities to Black and brown students with less merit. Now, this is a practice that granted access to higher education to minority students for decades. Now, seeing Asian families complaining about being stressed more than ever about college admissions now is surprising. Like, we told you that Black people were not the problem. But after successfully striking down the affirmative action, here we go again. Check out these videos I have compiled for you guys. I will be right back.
I just read this. Post-affirmative action, Asian American families are more stressed than ever about college admissions. We're talking about Harvard and Stanford, those schools. I really don't know what's clicking. It's going to be hard to get into Harvard no matter what. It's always going to be hard to get into these schools. There are so many schools, good schools in every single state. You don't have to go to those 5, 7 schools. It's not that many of those. And they're not taking in everyone. Like, they just can't. They can't. They won't. They can't and they won't. We know that they won't, which is why we had the affirmative action to begin with. But now they don't even have to do that. So they surely letting y'all in for real now.
We've been telling these Asian people that you should not team with them folks like that. You should not team up. In case you didn't know, knocking people put a battery in Asian people back to tear down affirmative action when it comes to college admission. Now the college people ain't picking them. College people is not picking them. And now they scared now. But we told you. We said, listen, playing with them folks. I'm telling you, man, it's not going to work out for you. We've been saying this for years. We've been telling you. But you told us to be quiet. We don't know what we're talking about. Now, they turning their fangs on the Asian community. I think a guy named Bloom, Edward Bloom, don't quote me, but I think it's a guy named Bloom who put a battery in Asian people back to go to the Supreme Court to stop affirmative action when it comes to college admission, because Bloom was telling them the reason you're not going to Harvard because they pick Black people based on the color of our skin. And we told you it wasn't true, but you believed them anyway, and look what happened. They turning on you, and I don't care. Celebration.
Oh, look at that. Asian Americans signing on to be used as tools of white supremacy to dismantle affirmative action did nothing to address the discrimination faced by Asian Americans in college admissions. Because dismantling affirmative action didn't address the fact that selective colleges admit Asian American applicants at a rate 28% less than similarly qualified white applicants. It's almost like the discrimination faced by Asian Americans in college admissions never had anything to do with Black students or affirmative action, and had everything to do with legacy admissions and the choices that colleges make to discriminate against Asian Americans in order to give preferential treatment to lesser qualified white students. If only Black people had tried to warn us. Oh wait, they did.
So Asians, this is for you. If you're not an Asian person, please keep moving. Please keep scrolling. Okay, I'll wait. All right, I have a question for y'all. How are y'all feeling? Because now that you guys have managed to get affirmative action completely out of school decisions when it comes to picking their candidates, how are y'all doing? I really want to know. See, y'all didn't think this through, did y'all? Y'all blamed us for the reason y'all weren't getting into colleges instead of us just being more qualified than y'all. Y'all didn't really think about that. Like, how dare Black people be more qualified than me? So I'm going to go to a white person and I'm going to get them to help me get affirmative action knocked down. And now that there is no affirmative action and y'all still worried about getting into a university, how are y'all doing? Because y'all forgot one main key. They used y'all dumbasses. They sure did. They managed to manipulate y'all into thinking that we were the problem instead of legacies. People that don't even have to have the grades, but just have to have the name to walk right through the door. Y'all thought we were wrong and we were the problem. And y'all just gave them more room to walk their little children right through the doors of Yale, right through the doors of Harvard, right through the doors of Brown, and leave y'all asses out in the cold. So I want to know, how does it feel? They sure did. They made it.
Damn sure did use them. And on top of the fact, somebody ain't doing their homework, because if you do the homework and you look into history, y'all only been allowed in the United States for about 30 years now. So like, why would you think that like white people are going to go to bat for you? No. Like, they're able to use y'all as finger puppets to be a problem with black people in the US. But I mean, why would you think that they're going to go to bat for you to make sure that you and your kids make it into universities? Like you won't have to sell a hell of a lot more chicken wings to get your kid into a university, a decent one at that. So like, why would you think that white people are going to go to bat for you to make sure that your child lands into a decent university? Or like, because if you looking at Ivy League, like you really way in over your head. Like, come on, be real. Like why would you think that white people are going to go to bat for you? Like, they kicked y'all out the country in the 80s. Remember the Chinese Exclusion Act? Well, whether you was born in the U.S. or not, your ass was going home. Remember when they nicknamed y'all Chinks and Japs? Why would you think that history has evolved so much that they're going to now all of a sudden make sure that your kids go to a decent school? Be for real.
This is what happens when you make a deal with the devil.
I'd have the Ivy Blues too if after 21 AP credits, stressing myself out for these SAT scores, paying a consultant thousands of dollars to review my application, and I still don't get chosen. All those book smarts, and somehow is not translating to critical thinking skills, because now Edward Bloom now has a license to go around and destroy any mentorship program, grants, scholarship programs for special populations. Gone. Was it worth it? The Fearless Fund, he's already annihilated that. A grant program that was helping a population of less than 1% to gain some sort of opportunity, just a little bit of money to start a business. Was it worth it?
Talk about irony, right? So earlier this year, Asian Americans stood outside the White House waiting on a decision on whether they would end affirmative action. Now, the courts ended up deciding with them, stating that race-conscious admission discriminate against Asian Americans. Baby, they were overjoyed, excited, until reality hit. Now y'all having trouble getting in colleges, but guess who isn't? I ain't gonna go there. Now it's desperate, dark times. But I thought if you would move affirmative action out the way, it would help, because y'all were being discriminated against. This is what you call getting played. Y'all really let them hype y'all heads up to make y'all believe that we really had an advantage, even though it's white tea women has really benefit off of it, and y'all really about to learn now. Oh, y'all thought they really wanted to help. That's cute. That's real cute. I bet y'all wish I would have kept affirmative action now, huh? I mean, we still getting in, so this ain't even really our issue, but I just find the irony. What he say? This is the type of stuff you watch from a distance. All right, y'all, I'm out.
Let's tap in. So finally, we're in our first year collegiantly after affirmative action has been removed. And now a lot of these Asians who are used as white supremacy tool points are starting to realize it's even worse than it was prior to when affirmative action was in place. Now they're realizing I was used, I was duped, I was misled, even though people of color and black people particularly were trying to tell me that I was being used. And then affirmative action was actually a bigger tool that white women use more than anything. That's why now you got way more white supervisors, managers, VPs, department leads, and representatives than anything. Now, because of affirmative action, now that affirmative action is out of the place, they're starting to realize that the gaze that they were sleeping in is finally been taken off. I want to understand how you feel now that when you don't get accepted into these Ivy League schools and a black kid does, is it going to be based off their merit, or are you going to make more excuses about why you didn't get in? Are you going to cry in pity and then find another reason instead of saying that you weren't good enough? It must be an ulterior situation that's keeping you out of these Ivy League schools. I just want to know, because at this point, it's very evident to everybody else that you weren't good enough. That was the whole situation, is that you weren't good enough to get into these Ivy League schools. And now that you've stricken down affirmative action, it's become very apparent that it's even harder for you to get into these schools. What I want now at this point is, when it's going to take time for people to start suing Harvard, Yale, and some of these Ivy League institution PWIs to get rid of the legacy admins. Because once you start getting rid of the legacy admin, now it starts becoming fair. But, you know what I'm saying, if you slow to the bus, you won't catch up to the pace, unfortunately.
Please watch this video all the way through because I have an important clarification to make. So this is the title of the study that you'll want to look up, or this is one of several related articles about that study. However, the clarification that I want to make is, the study does not show that there has been a 28% reduction in the enrollment of Asian American students in higher education ever since affirmative action was struck down. What the study shows is, before affirmative action was struck down, and it will remain the case because striking down affirmative action didn't do anything to address it, Asian American students were being accepted to highly selective colleges and universities at a rate 28% less than that of similarly qualified white applicants, based on test score, GPA, and extracurriculars, and that rate is significantly worse for Southeast Asian students. This is actually more infuriating because this was already known before affirmative action was struck down. Last year, I made quite a few videos explaining that affirmative action has never been about discriminating against Asian Americans in order to benefit Black and Brown students. It's that colleges and universities have deliberately chosen to discriminate against Asian American students to benefit white students. And Asian Americans had actually been out of the conversation about affirmative action for quite a while, until Edward Bloom had failed multiple times to attack affirmative action using white plaintiffs. He was not able to show that his white plaintiffs would have been accepted to these colleges and universities but for affirmative action, nor was he able to show that these colleges and universities discriminate against white students. So he hit upon the formula of using Asian American students to attack affirmative action, and it's no surprise that he was able to show that colleges and universities discriminate against Asian American students, because they do. But he scapegoated affirmative action and Black and Brown students because, again, colleges and universities chose to discriminate against Asian American students not to benefit Black and Brown students, but to benefit white students.
45 years after allowing America's universities to give limited consideration to race in admissions, the Supreme Court changed course on June 29th, race-based affirmative action programs in higher education. A 6-3 majority concluded violate the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment. The result in Students for Fair Admissions of Harvard consolidated with Students for Fair Admissions at University of North Carolina was no surprise, because affirmative action has been hanging by a thread for decades, with race-conscious admissions surviving by 1-vote margins in regions of University of California and back in 1978. Now, the ruling also deals a major setback to Black students and some other minority groups who have relied on affirmative action policies for admission. The ruling was also condemned by President Joe Biden, who said he agreed with the dissenting justices that this opinion washed away decades of precedent. The court has effectively ended affirmative action in college admissions and I strongly disagree with court's decision, he said in remarks from the White House. Hundreds of schools have for decades utilized affirmative action programs to one degree or another to boost the admissions of racial minorities at places where palm color people only had dominated. U.S. businesses and government agencies have also utilized affirmative action plans, although this ruling dealt only with admission to colleges. Now, coming back to the topic, Asian Americans are struggling to get admission into college because they disobeyed social politics. There's a social theory called intergroup solidarity, and it's basically the theory that minority groups help each other, especially when it helps their inner group. But Asian Americans, specifically John Wayne, should not have been the poster boy for dismantling affirmative action. When black people told you that white women benefit the most from this policy, but regardless of what has happened in history, you thought that helping the palm color man was in turn going to help you. Asian Americans still can't compete with legacy. Legacy wasn't overturned, and it's a system built by palm color people to benefit them. So black people are quick to help other groups, but are the least supported. Now, when John Wayne's little cousin is crying on TV because he still can't get into Columbia or Harvard, is crazy. That is something crazy. Asian Americans are already disproportionately higher in colleges than in the general population. Why? Because of American immigration policy and generational wealth. In 1968, America allowed more Asian Americans in if they had a graduate degree. In order to have a graduate degree in 1968, your family had to have means. So basically, they were allowing people with generational wealth from other places to come to the United States and then get jobs where they got more wealth, and those people gave their children a number of things. One, a role model on the kinds of jobs you could have. Number two, higher education. They were probably paying for things like common and tutoring and entry points. Now they know more people. All of these come together to make them successful in these higher education required roles. So while they were minorities, they were a privileged minority in higher education. And what did they do with their privilege? They decided to sue to get rid of affirmative action because they felt like they didn't have enough seats in higher education. And they got rid of affirmative action, but it didn't help them. Asian Americans still are 28% less likely to get in than a less qualified palm color applicant. And so Asian Americans decided to throw away affirmative action, which helped Black Americans and Latinx Americans. And who instead benefits? As that creator pointed out, the white legacy students. Because what is basically affirmative action for wealth palm color people still remains a very much enforced in Ivy League schools. Well, black people try to tell you. Now, I really had to look up the comments because I wanted to have an insight on how people are reacting to this. Here are some of the comments I picked at random. Why isn't that group that tackled affirmative action tackling legacy preferential treatment? One thing I looked forward to when they got rid of affirmative action is seeing who they blame now for not getting into a school with a 3% acceptance rate. It really pained me as an Asian how many Asians fought against affirmative action and could not see the benefits. You never win when you pander to white man. We try to tell them, wait until Asian American families experience the latest version of white flight. I never understood about how people only want affirmative action on education but not on sports, movies, music, etc. What did they honestly think was going to happen? Well, no joke. Well, I think the model minority phenomenon is such a testament to how under-discussed and misunderstood class still is. I'm Desi American and don't know a single person who thought the affirmative action BS would help more Asians get into college. I've heard it said that tokens get played. Yeah, the creator in the second is overly pro-common. It was giving model minority celebration. Affirmative action had already dominated a US system. Apparently, studies showed that while more minorities got in, graduation levels stayed there. I'm so upset about affirmative action going. Like, it didn't help me when I applied to undergraduate, but hoping it would have helped with grad school. These are just some of the comments, and trust me, there were so many comments on this topic, and I can't wait to see your comments on this topic as well. So feel free to share what you think about this video or this topic in the comment section below. Thank you for watching, and see you in my next video as I bring you another interesting video. Shalom.